Hi guys, thanks again for joining me in this wood turning tool review. I've got 2 or 3 scrapers here that I wanted to show you. I didn't have the time in the last video. Unfortunately, YouTube only allows me 15 minutes and I would have run over. So we'll use this video. First of all, Robert Sorby shear scraper. It's a square bar, small cutter on the end. They come in a full rounded cutter, or you can get, I don't know what you call it, like a rounded square. If you can imagine a square where the straight sides are semi-rounded. Well, basically what you're looking at now. Why they sell these, I don't know. The rounded one works better every time for me, whether you're using it on flat work or rounded work, in bowls or on spindles. The round one always seems to work better. But anyway, the idea is so that the square, if you look, the mounting surface is cut at right angles to the bar, so that there's your tool. Imagine my finger is the tool rest. You pop this on there and it automatically sets that tip at 45 degrees. So for somebody who's just starting shear scraping, your tool's automatically set at 45 degrees. Again, if you want to go the other way, turn it that way and it's at 45 degrees. Now they do work pretty well. They work better when the rounded cutters on them. I'm not a big fan of these square or rounded square cutters. I know I've got one on now, but the only reason I've got one on is because I bought the original tool which had one on, and then I bought a spare rounded square cutter as well as 2 rounded ones. So rather than use up the rounded ones, I thought I'd use these up first and then just buy the rounded ones in future. But yeah, it works okay. You can't go too deep over you can't go too far over the tool rest, otherwise the steel isn't really thick enough and the handle isn't really big enough. But yeah, they work okay, and for somebody who's just getting into shear scraping, they make a really good job of it. Right, next up, this is a scraper I made myself. As you can see, it's a round-ended scraper. Turn the handle myself. I made this tool probably about 2 to 3 weeks after I started first turning, so it's almost 10-year-old. I couldn't find no brass ferrules or anything in the shop, so I used a bit of aluminium pipe. The steel is an interesting steel. I have no idea what type it is. Obviously it's some sort of high-speed steel or / stainless, but there's an interesting story. My father, when he was younger, used to work at one of the steel mills, rolling mills in Sheffield. Now Sheffield, if you don't know, is world famous for production of steel. A lot of the battleship armour was produced at Sheffield. They've been making steel for almost 1,000 years. And as I say, he worked at one of the steel mills, and he wanted some steel so that his mother-in-law, my grandmother, could hang curtains off. Sorry, not curtains, nets in the window. So he asked if he could take some steel, and I said yeah, no problem. So he fetched this home, and it served its purpose for 30 years, maybe 40 years. Anyway, unfortunately, Grandma died, and they were going to throw these away, and I thought, oh, you know, if it's only mild steel or normal stainless, I could use them as the shaft for a tool and then tap it and put a cutter on. Anyway, I did a bit of experimentation in my workshop, seeing, you know, getting different cutters and seeing what would mark it and whatnot. And I couldn't get any other steel apart from tungsten carbide to mark this steel. High-speed steel wouldn't come anywhere near it. So I thought, oh, I'll give this a go. So I made a scraper out of it. This tool, you're going to laugh and you're going to say I'm lying. This tool is the best part of 10-year-old, and it has never, ever been sharpened since. That's the original edge that's on it, and it's still sharp. Granted, I don't use it every day. Granted, I don't use it every week. But it does get use fairly frequently, and it's never been sharpened in almost 10 years. This steel makes M2 high-speed steel look like Play-Doh, basically. I have something to, I think at the time, the factory that it was working at had something to do with the nuclear power industry, or they were doing a contract for something from making steel for the nuclear reactors in these submarines that Britain was building. And of course, nuclear power industry, reactors and that, the steel has to be super high quality. So whether he picked up the wrong steel, I don't know, but I can tell you it's super, super, super hard steel. Never ever been sharpened in 10 years. Unbelievable. It's a great little tool. With it being so small, you can get it into little nooks and crannies where you couldn't get another scraper. It's a brilliant little tool. Really is. Right, next scraper is this bit of a beast. I think it's 1.25 inches wide. I think it's 5/8 of an inch thick. My dad actually found this in a junk shop. He fetched it home thinking it would just be a cheap quality one. It turns out it's Henry Taylor's one. He got it for £1. Paid £1 for it in a junk shop. It turns out they're about £70 each to buy. The person who'd had it previously had, unfortunately, for some reason, they'd sharpened it the wrong way around. They had the edge that should be to the top on the bottom. So I reground it anyway, and it works brilliantly. You know, it's a real beefy scraper. This thing doesn't chatter and bounce on the tool rest. Brilliant. And as I say, cost me £1. At first I thought it was just a normal Henry Taylor scraper, but it turns out it's their heavy duty one. So really pleased with that. Good find. Lastly, in the scraper section is this. This is a crown, which I'm not too happy with. Crown usually, but this thing is one of the tools which I am happy with. It's what is it, 1 inch wide, but look at the thickness. I mean, is that a lump of steel or what? It's a right beast of the scraper. I use this if I'm having to scrape the bottom of the deep bowl. This thing, again, does not chatter or bend or it's a right piece of steel, and if somebody attacked you whilst you were in your shop, this would be a good tool to pick up. It's a brilliant little, I'm going to say a brilliant little scraper. It's far from little. It's a right chunk of steel. It's a good usable shape as well. That French curve shape. Very usable. Right, we'll call this video it. Next we're going to get have a look at some Sorby hollowers. Hope you'll stick around and watch that video. Catch you later guys, bye.